Welcome to a new video on CryptoCame, my dear friends. Today we are talking about TradingView again, specifically indicators, or rather TradingView itself now offers chart pattern indicators. Not just chart patterns, but also candlestick patterns, which is really awesome for trading. I actually received this suggestion from TradingView myself. They showed me, hey, just go in technical patterns and so on and so forth. I don't know how long this feature has been available. I just noticed that they've updated everything, or it says updated everywhere. And what's great is that for everyone who isn't very familiar with patterns or who just wants to have them displayed directly on the chart, this is a really big help. The candlestick patterns are also extremely awesome. Today, I'll show you both. But my main focus is on the chart patterns, because they not only show you the chart patterns themselves, but they also display a price target. And that's really interesting. It also turns out to be accurate quite often, as you see with different coins. I've tested it myself across various coins, different time frames and so on. So the hit rate here is very high, because even if the pattern doesn't play out okay, there's a target, but we don't end up reaching it, you simply don't enter that trade. But now let's just go together to the TradingView chart and I'll show you everything using Bitcoin as an example. It's really simple. Once we're in here, the first thing I would add, this is a little tip from me, just add ITIS the EMA, which stands for Exponential Moving Average. And then I would also add the support and resistance channels from the lonesome. I would include that as well. Why? For what reason? We'll get to that shortly. So now we have these two included. This is just a little aid for working with the patterns. Should you play it out here? How far do you trade? Where can you take profits if the profit target isn't reached? Just as a small example. Otherwise, when you're looking at indicators, you go here to technicals, then you have indicators, strategies, profiles, and patterns, and then you click on patterns. And as you can see, you have bearish flag, bullish flag, double bottom, double top, Elliott wave head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders. You see, you really have everything across the board. I'm just going to add a few things here now, because there really are a lot. Below, if you look, you also have the candlestick patterns. I'll get to those in a moment. I'll turn them on for now, but then I'll remove them. That means here I'll take them out beforehand, and now it looks a bit chaotic, of course. I just put everything in for now. Now I'm going to delete a lot of it again, and I just want to show you step by step how you can trade these afterward. As a small example, here we have, what do I have here? I've got a rising wedge and a falling wedge in here. Here we have a small example of a falling wedge, which also played out beautifully even. So here was the breakout, and if you look here, that's the price target. And if you look more closely now, why do I say IMA? I'll quickly make the IMA white for you. Why do I include it? Because it's very often support and resistance, which actually shows quite well how far it should go. But let's not get too confused now. Let's turn them off for a moment. Here we have this falling wedge with the breakout and the price target, as you can see from this area here. The target here is 26,649. And that was also reached beautifully in this case. And now, when I say, why do I mention the IMA, or rather, okay, on the 1 hour chart, that's with the, but with the IMA, what I mean is I would also do that later with the 200, because it is very often in a support or resistance zone. But because we're talking about support and resistance zones, that's the reason why I say you should include support and resistance zones, because in this area, I would have also taken profits if I had traded it, since we have a support zone here, or actually a resistance zone. It later became support, but there must have been a lot of volume here in the past. I haven't looked further back. We also have some other things here. Now let's move on to the next rising wedge that broke out. In this case, it's a very small one, but it was reached, had a small test here, and here too it was hit perfectly. I probably would have taken profits a bit earlier here, because we have this resistance zone here. Now, if we look at it the other way around, I want to show what happens when something doesn't fully play out, like in this case. We have this rising wedge, which is shown here. It breaks downward in this candle. Well, actually you wouldn't have taken this candle anyway, because you usually act on the candle close. But why? It didn't reach this target here, and this target definitely wasn't valid. Why? Because we have this support zone here. That means if I had closed this candle here, for example, and then played it out with a sensible stop loss, I would have taken partial profits at the latest here, but at the very latest taken all profits out here, because we have the support zone here. Here's another small example. It's exactly the same here. We closed below this rising wedge. It did show the target here, but since it was only a small rising wedge, I would have taken my profits here at the very latest as well, because we have this support zone here, at least a partial profit. And you can see here, that would have been a good move. But there are so many other patterns here. Not all of them would have played out perfectly. But you can see here, this would have been a beautiful one. And what did I just say again about the support and resistance zone? A bullish counterpart. Here we have a beautiful candle, closed above it, closed beautifully. That means you could have gone long here in this case, and I would have already taken partial profits here, but you can see this candle actually went much higher. In my case, I would have taken more profits here. That was good again, because we have this resistance zone here, and after that it really went down. That would be this one here. We can take a look. Do we have another bearish pennant somewhere here? Here, for example, would be a bearish pennant, but this is exactly what I wanted to show you when one doesn't play out. In this case, it says bearish pennant. We have a price target down here somewhere. What does it say? 17,757. But we would never have entered that trade. Why? Because we didn't break out to the downside. That means we never had a breakout to the downside, so it wouldn't have been a trade opportunity. Of course, you could also play out a bearish pennant in a bullish way. In this case, you can see it had a bullish reversal here and the chart moved upwards. So you can actually play out any pattern in the opposite direction if it doesn't play out in the direction it's originally indicated. But we also had this bearish pennant here again, a beautiful breakout to the downside. Yes, briefly pulled back. And then you can see how it played out. And here too, this price target was reached. We have so many patterns like inverse head and shoulders, head and shoulders. You always have to look at what it's indicating, maybe on different time frames. Here it's not showing anything. Let's take a quick look at the 30-minute chart. No, it's not showing any of those here either at the moment, but it really does detect a lot of double tops. Double bottoms play out very often. This one, for example, is already invalid. But here we had a beautiful double bottom. If you look at it closely, it touched once, twice, and then there was a breakout to the upside. Beautiful, target reached, and it kept going. Yeah. So here, really brilliant in that regard. That's why I say maybe you could use this, but the same thing exists if we leave that out, if you know what I mean. Yeah. All patterns, if we're talking about candles, candle patterns, and the candle patterns themselves are also really brilliant. But you also have to be very careful here, especially if reversals happen and, for example, we get a breakout like this one here, right? What else is really good about these candlestick patterns? You just hover over it with your mouse over this D and it immediately tells you what a doji candle is, how to trade it, and so on. You can also see here with PE, it signals the end of an uptrend. In this case, that wasn't entirely true afterwards. Yeah. We had a very strong consolidation. But these patterns, and I've looked into this a bit, are overall very good in this regard, yeah? And here it also says it's the end of a downtrend. It did go down further once more though. Here we have the end of an uptrend, which more or less worked out again this resistance zone. You have to take a closer look at that, but I would say on smaller time frames like 1 hour or 30 minutes, it's not that great. It's better to talk about or trade on the higher time frames. In this case here, we had resistance. We also have this bearish candlestick pattern here. He also says it's the end of an uptrend. Here we did get another test in the next candle and then it went down. Yeah. And here he also says that it's more or less the end of a downtrend. If you were patient here, you could have taken some profits. Again, the end of an uptrend here, and you could have taken some profits here as well. That means also learn a bit about these candlestick patterns. They're very interesting, especially on higher time frames. They're extremely interesting because they often indicate when the price is going up or down. Of course, it's not always the case. We have to say that too. But when candles form long wicks or long shadows, there's a reason for that because they're being bought up. And those are often signs of which direction things might go next. But otherwise, that's it for now. Maybe this will help you trading. For those who aren't so comfortable with charting or drawing chart patterns, this can be a really big help and of course can help you reach your price targets, learn how to trade breakouts and so on. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment or two. Throw in some emojis or whatever just to give the algorithm a boost in this crypto market. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Don't forget to like, share and so on. Ciao, ciao.